What would you do if you can't get ahead in your career, but you can kick ass in a fight? There was a time in Japan when samurai weren't a thing. So how did this class of warriors arise to later overshadow the civilian government for hundreds of years? Well, it was partly because of a demand for career warriors, and partly because the civilian government encouraged it. Before 792, Japan had a national military. In 792, Emperor Kanmu got rid of it. After 792, murder intensifies. Hey guys, Linfamy here, taking a break from my day job as a professional panda fluffer to bring you a video on how the samurai began. So, why did they do away with the whole national army business anyways? Because it became quite a bother. Before the Heian period, having a state military seemed like a good idea. Not only was it used to crush rebellions, they needed a large army to defend against foreign invaders, mainly the Chinese. The old national military was not a standing army. It was a militia, where you were called for duty once in a while, but most of the time you stayed a farmer, or whatever your normal job was. It was probably farming. This was cheaper to maintain than a standing army. The governments couldn't afford to feed thousands and thousands of mouths every day. That's why they need you to donate just 1 cent. Your generous penny will feed a soldier for 20 years. All males aged 20 to 59 who were fit for duty could be conscripted to serve as soldiers when needed. On average, the men served about a month each year, spread out across the entire year. Each province had a regiment. Since conscripts were mostly untrained peasants, the state military was made up of mostly infantry. A soldier was basically given a spear and told to stick him with the pointy end. It wasn't only infantry though, they tossed in a dash of horse archers for flavor. Horse archers required training and horses that peasants didn't have. These warriors were nobles from well-off families. Why did they get rid of the army? Well, they had a lot of problems. People were dodging the call to service, people were deserting their posts. Governors of the provinces were using troops for non-military things. They were supposed to be used for fighting bandits and finding criminals. Apparently this was not enough work, so governors started using them for farming and other things that didn't involve murder. We found some funny orders from the court telling governors to, damn it, stop using soldiers to plow your fields. They're for plowing your people. The men were mostly unfit for service. They didn't have the proper training. Over time, the courts even became more lenient in letting soldiers return home if they wanted to. It began to seek out people with horse archery skills or combat experience. There was a trend to move away from quantity towards quality, the reverse YouTube trend they called it. In 792, with the possibility of foreign invaders now slim because China was dealing with its own problems, and with all of the issues in the national military, Emperor Kanmu said screw this and got rid of it.
But then, how did the government protect itself?
So the courts didn't just abandon law enforcement and war, mama didn't raise no pansy, they delegated all that stuff to private military contractors. They created new military offices and titles and gave them to warlords when they needed warriors or armies to pew-pew and stuff. Chasing criminals and bandits was better done with small, fast horse units instead of large armies anyways. And so, in the 800s, a class of fighting men, bands of warriors, appeared on the Japanese stage, and they didn't leave. War turned out to be a great career path for some nobles who couldn't normally get ahead. The Heian court was a political battlefield. There were a small number of political offices, and a large number of men seeking them. The same dynamic as Tinder, except in the Heian courts, the men actually had a future. Unfortunately for a lot of nobles, the single biggest factor in determining how high you could climb the government ladder was the family you were born into. Emerge from between a Fujiwara's thighs and you started off with a high rank and had a good chance of getting into the peak of government. Come out of a house nobody crotch and you were lucky to serve tea to a Fujiwara. There was little social mobility. It was like if high school lasted forever. Sorry. If you were a low or middle-ranked noble, you were shut out from high government posts. There were also second and third sons of high-ranking men who missed out because eldest brother existed. You saw your career limited. Don't worry, have we got the solution for you? Kill people. Being a good warrior could catch you the eyes and ears of powerful nobles and get you high government positions. An exciting new career path had opened. To the stew of Japanese society, another ingredient was added: warriors. This new class started brewing at the bottom and would eventually rise to the top and stay there like fat that's congealed when the stove has been turned off. They were called bushi, which means warrior. There's another popular word which you may be familiar with, samurai, meaning one who serves. A samurai is a bushi, a warrior in service of a lord. By the end of the Heian period, bushi and samurai pretty much became interchangeable. Warriors were mostly in service of a lord. The opportunities were endless for a warrior. With the rise of private lands, landowners needed protection. Governors in the provinces needed warriors to be the muscle for tax collection, to fight bandits, and to defend against local rebellions. In the capital, they needed bodyguards, police, and capital guards. Warriors got together and became gangs. I assume these were little better than bandits or criminal gangs. The bodyguards for governors seemed to just be paid thugs who went around bashing heads in. As the violence business boomed, gangs got bigger. Standards and laws didn't exist around these things, so these private warrior gangs tended to be cobbled together mom-and-pop shops. They recruited people they had around them, or hired them. The quality and skill of the members could be totally different from one gang to the next. Charisma and influence would have been important for leaders of these groups. A warlord's success depended on his ability to recruit followers.
So why would people follow these guys?
Well, the main reason to follow a warlord was not honor, but personal gain. It's hard to get someone to risk death for you if all they get in return is honor. Leaders promised whatever benefits they could think of, like leasing land to followers, lending farming tools, giving out seeds for farming, organizing trade, promising government positions, giving out Pokemon, sharing the spoils of war, granting personal favors. These warrior gangs could grow up to a few hundred people, and 2 or more gangs could form alliances when they needed larger armies. These alliances were like a house of cards. They could fall apart at any time. Same with the gangs. Remember, there were no laws for these things, no government enforcement of contracts. Loyalty ended when there was a richer or stronger lord you could go and be loyal to. Military networks had hierarchies. A samurai leader had followers directly under him, and those followers may have their own followers until you get to the peons at the bottom. These guys probably had little love for the guys at the top. If someone left in a huff, his men probably left with him in several huffs. Into this environment came those nobles we talked about, the ones with sad career prospects. Some chose to remain in the capital, staying close to powerful officials, becoming their bodyguards, seeking their patronage. Others went out into the provinces and grew their power there. The Taira and Minamoto clans were part of this new breed of nobles, and they chose both routes. In the provinces, they grew armies. In the capital, they mingled with the powerful. They descended from the imperial family, so they had an advantage when recruiting followers. Their royal privilege gave them influence in the provinces, and they became the main warrior clans. The samurai had come to Japan, and they were here to stay. So the samurai class would eventually take over Japan's government. Now I know what you're thinking. These warriors were running around getting bigger when no one was looking, and the state didn't have a national army, so of course the samurai would take over. It's obvious. Well, that's really not fair to the poetry reciting nobles in the Heian capital. Yeah, they sit around memorizing poems and painting their faces, but they weren't idiots. The samurai existed throughout the Heian period. They had hundreds of years in between to overthrow the government, and they didn't, because the Heian courts did keep a check on samurai power. Sure, there was the occasional bloody rebellion here and there, but everyone's had those in their lives. Heian Japan was a society where the capital was at the top, and the road to power was through the government. Everyone bought into this hierarchy, even the samurai. Nobles who left the capital for a military career in the provinces still tried their best to visit the capital and keep their political ties strong, or at the very least, like the emperor's Instagram posts. War was a profession beneath the people in the highest ranks, a path that middle-ranked nobles took, people who had no other way to climb the political ladder. For most of these military nobles, military might was not seen as power in itself. It was power in the provinces, definitely, but not in the capital, not where it mattered. War was a means to climb the ladder. The non-military nobles in courts fostered this belief by forming strong relationships with samurai leaders. The Minamoto won the backing of the Fujiwara clan. The Taira won the backing of retired emperors. The courts bestowed titles to samurai leaders, saying, "Here, now you have legitimacy and power." Samurai couldn't go around attacking anyone. For example, when a samurai named Taira no Masakado attacked a provincial headquarters, the courts called it treason and gave some military titles to other warriors and told them to go and kill him. The state legitimized that killing. The samurai also didn't see themselves as part of a social group or class. Warlords identified with their non-military peers more than with other warlords. Most saw themselves not as warriors who also happened to be nobles in courts, but as nobles in courts who happened to engage in war. That's why during most of the Heian period, a military coup by the warrior class was unlikely. Until it happened, of course, at the end of the Heian. Hey guys, a lot of this info I got from Carl Friday's book, Hired Swords, where he talks about the rise of the samurai. If you want to know about it in excruciating detail, check out his book, link in the description. Alright, time for today's quiz question. Edo sickness was caused by the lack of what? I'll choose a random winner from the correct answers in 24 hours. Winner gets one of these things. The last winner was Dusk Wolf. Rawr. Good luck. We have some new patrons this week, Emily Harvey and Start. Thank you so much, you guys. Alright, much love and spread the knowledge.